Thanks for joining us, and let's break down day 2 at the Portsmouth Invitational Tournament. I'm Dave Shore, and Chris Ekstrand, NBA consultant, is joining us because he is the man who knows the knowledge of these guys and what we've seen so far. What jumps out on your notes in day 2?
Well, the easy one would be Marial Shayok from Iowa State. This is a player most people around here are very familiar with because he played 3 seasons at Virginia. And today, I think his first 6 shots, he made them all, and 3 of those were threes. And when you get hot like that and you're a shooter, you just keep rolling. And he ended up with 37. So I mean, he couldn't miss. He was making the good shots. He was making the not so good shots. But Shayok is like that. He is a guy who can, when he gets on a roll, he has ultimate confidence in himself, and he has a repeatable shot. So he's just going to keep draining those, and he did that.
All those are skills that are transferable over to the next level.
They are, because he's the type of guy where if you look at his body, he has an NBA-type build for his position on the wing. Defensively, I think he's still going to have to improve a little bit. But offensively, he has the ability to make shots without a dribble, and he also has the ability to make shots off the dribble. And if you can do both of those things at a wing spot, that's a very tough guy to cover.
One of the reasons why after Game 2 I wanted to talk to Zach Hankins is we don't normally get to see the post play or the big men here. And a lot of times we've seen a lot of good big men, but I always enjoy watching. Did we have some big men step out?
I thought, we'll start with Hankins because he was really impressive. The funny thing about Hankins was he was only a 1-year player at Xavier. He was at Ferris State in Division II for 3 years, Ferris State in Michigan, and he was the Division II Player of the Year as a junior, and he had 1 more year of eligibility, and he decided to transfer to Xavier. He was able to play right away because going from Division II to Division I, you don't have to sit out. So he was able to come and play right away. But Xavier, they didn't really incorporate him into the team right away. It took a while. So early in the season when you watch them, he was playing about 12 minutes, 15 minutes, and you said, well, I see some things I like, but you really aren't seeing a lot of him. I saw him, I was fortunate enough to be watching the back couple games of the Big East tournament, and I saw him against Villanova, and everything that was around the rim, he dunked. Everything that was around the rim on the other end, he blocked. And I said, there aren't 12 better centers than this. We have to get this guy in here. And, our teams, most of the NBA teams didn't call us on him. They didn't know about him. They didn't know enough about him. But we were fortunate enough to be able to see him, and I figured if everything he's doing is working against Villanova, and that's a top 25 team, he deserves a shot in here. And sure enough, tonight, I would say that's probably the game of his life, at least at this level, playing against these level players.
Day 2 also filled up the stands a little bit more, a few more scouts, a few more coaches in the stands. Is that what we normally see, a little bit more interest because we expect some of these guys get a little game or 2 under their belt and they're going to really start shining?
I think that the first game for a lot of the players, they have to find a comfort zone. Because unlike playing with your teammates on your college team, you pretty much know what your role is going to be. You know where you're going to get your shots from, and now you're out here in an all-star format, and it's brand new. I mean, you don't know the other guys you're playing with or against. You don't know if somebody's going to pass you the ball, because there are some gunners out here, let's be honest. So, you don't know if you make a shot, it might be a while before you get the ball in your hands again. So, we'll see how that plays out. But as guys start to get more comfortable, it's funny, by the 3rd game, the last game for these players, they figured out who the pick and roll bigs are. They figured out who the corner catch and shoot guys are. They figured out who the ball handlers, the decision makers are going to be, and then it's really smooth. But it takes a while to get to that point. This last game tonight was disappointing because it was a close game, but it wasn't a well-played game. I thought there were too many players out there who thought, boy, it's a close game, I have to do something for my team, I have to try to take over myself and shoot the ball. And when you get that, the game deteriorates. So the second half of the last game was disappointing. But there were some really great moments in all 3 games. Yeah. Just there were more of them in those first couple games.
There are so many special things about the Portsmouth Invitational Tournament that brings together here the history. I love the history of the game. I love the unique stories. And we've seen one I think we'll look back on is Chris Clemens. Here's a young man. It stands Pete Maravich, Freeman Williams, and now Chris Clemens in all-time NCAA Division I history in terms of points. I know he didn't play particularly well tonight, but it's a very interesting young man.
Well, he had his moments tonight, but I've been watching him now for a couple of years. I'm fortunate enough to live near where he plays, so I've seen him in person. But there's nothing that prepares you for a guy beating his man off the dribble who's 5'9", and then all of a sudden he's raising over a 6'11" guy and dunking the ball. And he did that right at the beginning of the game, and I think a lot of people here were a word that you don't hear very much often anymore, thunderstruck. I think they were thunderstruck when they saw that because, here's this 5'9" guy shot out of a cannon dunking the ball over a 7-foot guy. It was pretty amazing for them. I've been fortunate enough to see it a lot. He didn't make a lot of jump shots in this game, but there was a good reason for that. A lot of the time he was being guarded by Barry Brown, who was the Defensive Player of the Year in the Big 12, and one of the best defensive guards in the country.
Definitely.
I mean, Barry Brown might make the NBA just on that. He's not a bad shooter. He's an okay shooter, but he's such a good defensive guard. It's a nightmare because you're crossing over anything you do, and he's stuck to you. It's like glue. He's all over you all the time. And all the shake moves that Clemens uses in the Big South that gets him wide open, free and easy, Barry Brown is like, and he's right there. So that's a tough guy to have play in your first game is Barry Brown.
All right, we're going to end very quickly here, but I want to toss you one, and I know I didn't give you a heads up on this one. From Chris Ekstrand's perspective, name me one player you expect to see a little bit more out of in the next couple of days.
Wow. It's difficult to say, but I will say Garrison Matthews because the kid from Lipscomb, he's a really good shooter, and he just didn't get any shots tonight. I was talking about there was a little selfishness that came into that game. I think he ended up, his only points in the game were actually from the free throw line. He got crushed on a three-pointer and made all 3 free throws, so he got some points on the board, but I don't think he made a field goal, and he only took about 3 shots. So, I saw the guy get 40 at North Carolina State on their floor in the NIT.
Wow.
So, we know this guy can do it. He didn't get invited here just by a whim. He's a really high-quality player, so that's an easy one. I don't think he's going to play 2 more games without getting a field goal.
Hey, you did what I told you. I threw you the ball, you set it up. Chris, thanks so much.
Thank
Chris
you,
Ekstrand does a great job. Thanks for joining us with this Day 2 recap at the Portsmouth Invitational Tournament.